Look at how beautiful it is all around. A Russian estate. The weather isn't very good, it's cold. And I'm riding in a convertible. So what if it's a tractor? I'm driving along, no roof, none at all. Well, that means it's a convertible. I'm driving through Belaya DACHA. Does that name mean anything to you? Well, see for yourself. Is the house white? White? Is the house small? Small. So it's a white DACHA. Make sense? Makes sense. Across the fields, the new track is coming to us. In its trailer, there's a roll call by names. Come on, little one, try to guess who is taking us to the Belomor Canal.
Well, Fedya, we've got to get to work today. We need to show some power. All 20 horsepower. We have to, Fedya, we have to. Fedya, also known as Fedya Petrovich, also known as Fordson-Putilovets, or in its maiden days, Fordson F, a legendary tractor. Its invention has been featured on postage stamps, postcards and posters. It became just as much a symbol of our era as Lyuba Orlova was in cinema, or the Budenovka as the image of the Red Army. And today, I'll tell you where this beauty came from. Where from, you ask? From across the ocean, thanks to the efforts of the great and terrible Henry Ford. In fact, he was the only one who saw the potential of the young Soviet state. The shareholders unanimously said that the Ford company would not produce any tractors, and that was final. That could have been the end of it, but Henry created the company Henry Ford & Son, which was later shortened to Fordson. And thanks to the efforts of graduates from the Ryazan Trade School, through some fierce transliteration, it became Fordson. Alright, not Ryazan, Leningrad. A mighty stream of tractors began to flow from America to the banks of the Neva, to the walls of the Kerosene-Putilovets factory. Do you know how the first tractors from 1923 differed from those that arrived in Russia in 32? They didn't differ at all. Here, the loaf of bread principle came into play. If something is made well from the start, there's no need to change it. Just kidding. It wasn't made well from the start. More precisely, there was one excellent thing about it that established the principle of tractor construction, namely the frameless design. That is, the engine, gearbox, clutch and rear axle were assembled together and became the frame for the tractor, and everything else was attached to it. The tank, wheels, seat, steering wheel. That's all. But before I start taming this powerful 20 horsepower machine, let's go back to the very beginning. To the vibrant roaring 20s, only while in America they truly rolled with jazz and cinema. In the Soviet Union, 5-year plans were very much in vogue. In just 3 years, no less roaring, the first American tractors never made it to the fields of collective and state farms. They were sent straight to the workbenches of Soviet engineers. The tractors were disassembled down to the last screw to study their construction. The real action started with, yes, screwdriver assembly of bourgeois machines. They learned as best they could. They assembled the first 24 Fordson-Putilovets tractors. That's why, in the early years, it was mostly American tractors that went out to the collective farm fields. and just a few of ours. To give you an idea of the ratio, in 1925, 12,000 tractors were imported from America. Meanwhile, only 422 tractors rolled out through the gates of Fordson-Putilovets. However, with each passing year, the number of our so-called domestic tractors increased. And in the final year of production, 1,931 12,000 Putilovets tractors were made. And here in front of me is one of them. Blue, with an iron seat, red wheels in a word, a real beauty. The hand crank starter is there too. On the radiator grille, it doesn't say some bourgeois Fordson, but our very own revolutionary Fordson-Putilovets. A wonderful example of primitive tractor engineering, which by the way set the direction for the entire global trend. Why primitive? Well, because the engine here is as classic as it gets for its time. Carbureted, 4-stroke, 4 cylinders and water-cooled. What is it conceptually similar to? That's right, to the engine from the Ford T. No pumps or anything like that. The cooling is Thermosiphon. That's when hot water is replaced by cold water through the action of physical laws. Hot water rises up, cold water sinks down. And there you have your circulation. By the way, it's actually nice not to know physics. Then you're surrounded by nothing but magic. The cooling system capacity is 46 liters. The non-gasoline tank holds 63 liters. The tractor runs on kerosene, and it does so on an industrial scale. By the way, there wasn't that much kerosene in the young Soviet Republic. Locally, people were used to fueling everything with Leningrad, also known as white oil. But that's not the point. It was thanks to the Fordsons that kerosene began to replace Leningrad. Everything is ingenious and simple. The fuel flows to the engine by gravity. The oil is agitated and lubricates thanks to the crank mechanism's pedals. There's no oil pump either. This was acceptable for a passenger car but became a problem for a heavily loaded tractor engine. The engine's power is 20 horsepower. Maybe Mustangs, but that's not certain. But for a tractor weighing 850 kilograms, that was more than enough. More, ensuring its continued utility and relevance for the foreseeable future. We absolutely do not want to risk ruining the meticulously prepared furrows today, as their integrity is crucial for optimal results. This entire operation is proceeding smoothly and precisely, all under the exceptionally careful and expert guidance of the highly skilled wizards from Simonov Motors. And listen to that, the magnificent, powerful sound of the machinery working in perfect harmony. All right, everything is going according to plan.
Push the handle fully in and then gently turn it. That's it. The engine can run on any combustible liquid, even alcohol, but it starts initially on gasoline. You start it, let it warm up for 5 minutes, and then you can switch to any liquid that burns. What immediately puzzles you is the 3-speed gearbox, which can't be shifted. Whichever gear you put it in, that's the one you drive with. Although for a tractor, that's probably normal.
The rear axle reducer, or to be precise, the main drive, is a worm gear with a differential. By the way, this component was unique, and Mr. Ford patented it. Its main feature is that it's very inexpensive to manufacture. But this is the very part that most often broke down.
What don't we see here? The brake pedal. The Fordson doesn't have one at all. The clutch pedal and the brake pedal are actually the same pedal. So if you press it lightly, that's the clutch. If you press harder, that's the brake. But even though this tractor doesn't really need a brake pedal, since it has no coasting at all,
Even before a water pump was installed on the engine, which happened later, the engine would often overheat and break down. The crankshaft would seize up, and the bearings in it were made of bobbitt metal. All in all, it's hard to say who worked harder, the tractor driver on the tractor or the tractor on the driver. Another serious drawback of this tractor, according to recollections, was the completely exposed rear wheels. They love to spray the tractor driver with mud from head to toe, and sometimes even wrap him up in it. That's why installing fenders was, so to speak, a kind of homemade tuning, or maybe it was done at the factory, I don't really know.
It makes your ears ring, but not from speed, it's from the racket. In first gear, the speed is 2 kilometers per hour. That's the speed I'm calling at right now. In third gear, well, it's about 10. And the tractor also had this feature, this ability. If, while plowing, your plow caught on a stump or a rock, the tractor would immediately rear up like a wild Mustang.
In just under 10 years of production, more than 36,000 machines rolled out of the gates of the Fordson-Putilovets factory, plus about 40,000 machine kits for export. However, in 1930, the Leningrad tractor plant began operations, producing the more powerful STZ 1530, which has its own no less fascinating story of how it appeared in the country, and it became the main tractor for agriculture. All the worries and inconveniences, that's just how things look from today's perspective. Back then, people were truly made of stone, and this machinery really did help lift our country's agriculture. And no one complained, they were happy. That's it for today's shift, but the hunt goes on.
Damn it! What is this? It makes your ears ring, not from speed, but from the racket. By the way, very first gear, the speed is about 2 kilometers per hour. In third gear, it's just over 10. And I think we're about to stall. Yep, we stalled. Simonov,